Hello everyone, how are you? It's great to meet you again on this channel that discusses various films. This time we will review an Indian film titled Bajrangi by John starring famous actors such as Salman Khan, Kareena Kapoor and many more. This film tells the story of a 6-year-old mute girl who is separated from her mother and trapped in another country. The situation is getting more difficult because the two countries are experiencing a major conflict. Will Sahida be able to return home and reunite with her parents? Without many spoilers at the beginning, let's get straight to the storyline. The story begins in a quiet village in Pakistan. The villagers are watching a baseball match between Pakistan and another country. In the midst of the crowd, a pregnant woman awaits the birth of her baby and promises to accompany her child to martyrdom. If Pakistan wins, of course if the baby is a boy. Soon the cheers of the Pakistani people are heard celebrating their victory. 6 years later, it turned out that the woman gave birth to a girl and named her daughter Sahida. A man named Ralph, who was his father, was seen telling Sahida to go home immediately because it was starting to get noon. On the way home, while pushing his toy wheel, unexpectedly he fell down a cliff. When he arrived home, his wife asked where the martyr was. Why hasn't he come home yet? Ralph was surprised because he thought the martyr had arrived home. The search was carried out until nightfall. Finally, they found the martyr stuck in a tree branch at the bottom of a ravine. Long story short, Sahida survived, but it turned out that Sahida could not speak. They argued, and the grandfather suggested that she be taken to Delhi for treatment. Ralph refused because he was a former military man, and it would be difficult to get permission to go to India. Finally, his wife agreed to go to India with Sahida. For that, Ralph sold his sheep to pay for Sahida's trip to India. Not long after, Sahida and her mother left for India. After showing their passports, they went to a place to pray with other Muslims. But in the middle of the journey, the train they were on had a little problem. All the passengers fell asleep while waiting for repairs. At that time, Sahida suddenly woke up and saw a lamb outside the train. Unexpectedly, Sahida got down to approach the lamb. Suddenly, the train started moving again. Sahida, who could not speak, tried to give a sign to call her mother. But unfortunately, her mother, who was sleeping, did not realize it. Sahida cried in the dark night on the journey. Her mother woke up and realized that Sahida was no longer beside her. Panicking, her mother looked here and there. Meanwhile, Sahida boarded a freight train which turned out to be heading in the opposite direction, back to India. Her mother continued to search, but Sahida was not found. The train finally stopped, and the passengers also looked for Sahida. Her mother begged the engineer to look for her himself, but was prohibited by the officer because even though the distance was close, it had crossed the country's border and they needed a new visa to cross. Long story short, the martyr woke up and found himself in the middle of a crowd of people. In that place, there was a man named Pawan who had just finished rejoicing in a Hindu religious event. Sahida, who was thirsty without thinking, immediately approached Pawan and drank the water he was holding. And also because she was hungry, Sahida did not hesitate to ask for food there. Pawan and a trader asked what her name was and where she came from, but this little girl did not answer at all. They did not know that Sahida was mute. Pawan continued his journey, but Sahida followed from behind. Pawan then gave money, but this girl refused it. Then Pawan told Sahida to wait at a statue of a god until her parents came. But because he couldn't bear it, he took this girl to the police station. Pawan intended to ask for help so he could find Sahida's parents or leave her at the police station. But the police refused to help him. so Pawan was forced to take the girl again. Pawan tried to guess where she came from, but none of them were right. Finally, everyone on the bus helped guess where Sahida came from. The conversation expanded. Throughout the journey, Pawan told that he came to Delhi at the request of his parents. His father was a prominent person in their village since he was little. Pawan was always taught many things, starting from school exams, badminton training, to politics. However, when he was a teenager and had to move up a class, Pawan failed for years until finally his father got annoyed and called him zero. On the 11th exam, Pawan passed, but before he had time to speak, his father was already furious and cursed because Pawan always failed. His father then told Pawan to work and meet his friend in Delhi. When the atmosphere was quiet, Pawan said that this time he passed, but because he was shocked his father died. As a dutiful son, Pawan promised to grant his father's last request. Long story short, Pawan was on another bus. After arriving, Pawan gave the fare, but the conductor told him to give the change to the woman sitting in front because neither of them had any change. They argued until they finally got off the bus. Pawan arrived at his destination and was shocked to see people practicing wrestling. Not long after, he was shocked again because the woman who was there earlier, the woman's name was Razika. Pawan was almost beaten up because he was suspected of following the woman. After being released, Pawan explained that he came there on the orders of his late father. Pawan then ate with Razika's parents and youngest sister. However, because they were vegetarians, Pawan did not find any meat on the dining table. His father then told Razika to find a job for Pawan. It turned out that Razika was a teacher. At first sight, Pawan and Razika fell in love with each other. Pawan is a very devout Bajrangi devotee who even respects a monkey. But Razika said that there were monkeys roaming everywhere. On the other hand, Razika was matched by her parents. But Razika was sure that Pawan was the right person. In addition to being honest, Pawan was also religious. Therefore, Razika refused to be proposed to by another man. The decision was accepted by all parties. But her father gave a condition to marry her daughter. Pawan must have a house that can be from his own hard work. Her father then gave a period of 6 months. After telling the story on the bus, Pawan returned to Razika's house with the little girl. For the time being, they gave the name Muni to the little girl, and Razika's family accepted it happily. However, Razika's father did not want anyone else in the house, especially if the person is of a different religion. However, until here we do not know the origin and religion of the girl. Then Muni looked sad, remembering his parents when he was washing his hands in the kitchen. Muni accidentally smelled the aroma of chicken meat. Pawan and Razika had just come home from shopping, and they were shocked to find Muni no longer at home. They looked for him until finally, unexpectedly, Muni ate with a Muslim family. Seeing that, Pawan immediately took Moni out.
Chicken lollipop, chicken kadhai, chicken tawa, chicken tandoori, chicken fried rice, chicken noodle, chicken manchurian, chicken achari, chicken.
Since that incident, Muni was taken to a restaurant by Razika and Pawan, who intended to give him fried chicken. Pawan thought that Muni came from the Brahma caste because his skin was very white and clean. Muni looked gloomy and cried after seeing the mother and son, who were very harmonious. Then Razika and Pawan danced there to entertain Moni. One day, Pawan apologized to the gods because he and Muni had eaten fried chicken. However, Muni was very interested in the presence of a mosque behind him. Without hesitation, he entered and prayed in the mosque. Pawan then explained to Razika that he felt he had deceived Razika. However, Razika was doubtful because how could Muni, who could not speak, be able to deceive? Razika, who heard Pawan's explanation, immediately followed Muni into the mosque. But she did not find Muni there. Suddenly, Muni came and hugged Pawan. At At home, the family is watching a baseball match between India and Pakistan when India is threatened to lose. Muni looks happy when Pakistan manages to beat India. Everyone feels sad, but not Muni. He even looks happy and kisses the Pakistani flag that appears on the TV screen. Finally, it was revealed that Muni was a Muslim from Pakistan. The father was angry because Muni came from a Muslim family, not from the Brahmin caste. His father was furious because he thought Pakistan had killed many Indians. However, Razika denied that Muni knew nothing about it. His father did not want to know and insisted that Muni must be returned to Pakistan as soon as possible. The next day, Pawan went to the Pakistani embassy. However, there was a demonstration there voiced by Indian citizens. Pawan asked for a passport to be made so that Muni could return to Pakistan, but the embassy refused because there was a commotion at the embassy, and finally the place was closed for the next month. At home, Raika's father had an acquaintance at an illegal travel agency. Pawan and Muni immediately went there. However, even though going to another country could be done easily, the journey to Pakistan was very difficult, and the travel agent refused their request. After they left, the agent told them there was another way to go to Pakistan, but they had to pay some money. At night, Pawan counted his savings, which he had actually prepared for the cost of marriage. But Razika then gave all her savings to help her future husband. She was sure that if the god Bajrangi Bali knew that Pawan had done good, Razika would not be afraid. She believed that after this, she would definitely marry Pawan by the will of the god. Long story short, Pawan returned to the travel agency and gave some money. However, Muni had refused to go. For Muni's good, Pawan reluctantly let Pure go at that time. With a sad feeling, Pawan walked, and accidentally, he saw the bracelet that Muni liked. Remembering Muni, Pawan bought it. After that, he immediately returned to the travel agency, but unfortunately the travel agency was closed. Pawan followed the pedicab that Muni was riding until he reached his destination, and apparently Muni was taken to a prostitution place. Without hesitation, Pawan beat everyone there trying to save Muni. With the conflict between India and Pakistan, Pawan decided to go to the Muslim country without a visa and passport in order to return Moni to her family. The scorching sun did not stop him. The good intentions of a Pawan in the middle of his journey, he was approached by a young man on the border who was none other than an illegal broker. The young man intended to give him a ride by paying some money, but Pawan refused because the fare was very expensive. Pawan then explained that he came from India and he went to Pakistan only to escort this girl who was lost in India. Hearing Pawan's kindness, the young man was touched. He also helped provide a ride. After arriving at the border, the young man used a secret path to get past the fence. However, because of his honest nature, Pawan instead intended to ask permission from the soldiers on guard. The young man considered what Pawan was doing very dangerous and finally left Pawan and Muni just like that. Shortly after that, the soldiers at the border came. Pawan explained his arrival that he only wanted to take this child Muni back to his family in Pakistan, but they did not believe him and considered Pawan an intruder. The soldiers were surprised to ask how Pawan could enter this border. Pawan, who was honest, explained that he went through a hole underground. The soldiers told him to come back with a threat that if Pawan did not return within 10 minutes, he would be shot dead. Even so, Pawan did not flinch at all. Instead, he remained standing there, not intending to retreat. When the soldiers returned to patrol, They were forced to beat Pawan. However, Pawan still promised that after meeting Muni's parents, he would return to India. The army chief, who was touched by Pawan's kindness, finally allowed him to go. Long story short, Pawan and Muni finally arrived in Pakistan, and they had breakfast at a cafe. Not long after that, some police came. They immediately left from there. However, Muni, who remembered the Indian police station, took the handcuffs belonging to the Pakistani police. A local journalist named Chanua was reporting on the flow of Eid homecoming traffic at a station. One of the residents informed him that there was an intruder from India who was being held at the police station. The journalist immediately went to the police station with enthusiasm to interview Pawan, who was considered the intruder. Pawan explained that he only wanted to accompany a little girl who was lost in India because Moni could not speak. Suddenly, Moni saw a calendar with a picture of a landscape and suddenly remembered her hometown. However, the police did not believe him and immediately checked Muni's mouth, which they were holding. Pawan did not accept the treatment and immediately beat the police there. Muni and Pawan immediately ran away and hid in a bus. Kanua, the journalist, and his friend Yusuf, who did not want to lose the news, immediately chased the bus. Kanua managed to get into the bus, while Yusuf was left behind. The scene changed. Kanua then called. The police informed that the spy was now with him on the bus. When the conductor charged the fare, Pawan asked about the location on the calendar, making the conductor surprised. Pawan explained that this girl could not speak and was lost in India. Because of pity, Pawan was determined to find out where his family was. Hearing this, the conductor felt very proud because there were rarely noble people like Pawan who came all the way from India to Pakistan and even risked their lives. Not long after, their bus was surrounded by the police. When searched, the police did not find Pawan and Muni. It turned out that they were hidden by the passengers and the conductor on the bus. Pawan and Muni were dropped off at a place to spend the night. When he woke up, Pawan was shocked to see many children around him. Apparently, Pawan had fallen asleep in the mosque. Feeling surprised, Pawan immediately asked for forgiveness from the god Bajrangi. While pensive outside, Pawan was approached by a cleric named Maulana Shahab who invited him in. But Pawan refused because he felt they were of a different religion. Maulana explained that the mosque was open to everyone, but Pawan remained hesitant until a police car passed before he dared to enter. After hearing the Pawan story, Maulana was willing to help by asking the students there. One of the students saw the calendar and said that the picture was from Swiss Greenland, because there was a small writing on the calendar. Maulana then suggested that Pawan go to a holy place called Kashmir, a place that is believed to be able to reunite separated people. Maulana also reminded Pawan to be careful because the situation outside was dangerous. Maulana helped Pawan get out by disguising him as a woman. Meanwhile, Yusuf, the cameraman, was caught by the police after being chased. After traveling halfway, Maulana dropped Pawan and Muni off and promised to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that Pawan's noble task would be made easy. In India, Razika and her father argued. Her father did not expect that Pawan would be so reckless. Razika blamed her father, saying that if only her father had not been selfish, maybe all this would not have happened. The three of them continued their journey. Kanua asked Muni to do something to a parked car. Not long after that, they saw an old man whose car had broken down. Kanua immediately helped him, and it turned out that the car's exhaust was plugged with a banana by Muni as a way to hitch a ride. Finally, they continued their journey with the old man. What was most surprising was that this old man was the head of the police there. He was even willing to help them get to their destination with his men. Everyone panicked, but the journey was still safe and smooth. When they stopped, an old man came out of the house. Kanua pretended to be his son. However, It turned out that the old man did not have children, and his disguise was almost blown. Not long after, the police chief received a report about an intruder with a man and a little girl. His men immediately followed to the place, but unfortunately, they were no longer there. They continued their journey while Kanawha continued to record every incident they experienced. When night fell, Pawan almost gave up and intended to surrender to the police because they had not succeeded in finding Muni's origin. But he remembered his promise to Bajrangi Bali to help Muni until he met his parents. Kanawha got an idea, namely to contact a television channel to broadcast the story of this lost mute girl. But all televisions rejected it and considered the story as nonsense that was not interesting. Yusuf, who had been arrested by the police, was asked to call Kanawha, and Kanawha went somewhere. With this clue, the police immediately chased him. After arriving, Pawan went in to pray while Kanawha recorded all the moments as news material. In his documentation, Kanawha said that at first he thought Pawan was an intruder, but in reality, Pawan was a noble-hearted figure who tried to reunite the lost little girl with her family. Muni's mother was seen praying, but she didn't realize that Muni was also there. Kanawha then went to an internet cafe and uploaded the recording to YouTube, hoping that Pawan's story would go viral. Not long after, he realized that Yusuf had arrived with the police. Kanawha immediately followed Pawan, and they hid. Kanawha, who was already aware that he was being watched by the police, lied to Yusuf by saying that he was going somewhere. That night, they replayed their uploads on YouTube, but unexpectedly Muni realized his mother passed in front of the camera. Immediately, they looked for traces of the bus his mother was on. It turned out that Muni came from the village of Sultanpur. They were happy and immediately rushed away. But unexpectedly in the middle of their journey, they were blocked by a police raid. Reluctantly and with no other choice, Pawan dared to fight back. Muni and Kanawha fled, while Pawan had to be surrounded by the police. In the chaos, Muni finally found his way back to his village, while Pawan had to be tortured by the police. His body was injured and cornered. Even so, he persisted in the hope that he would be able to meet Muni again. However, in a very desperate situation, Pawan was finally shot by the police. On the other hand, Purely managed to find his village and his happiness back. Long story short, after Kanawha's post went viral and was widely spread, the story of Pawan, who sacrificed everything to reunite Muni with his family, became a hot topic on social media and news channels. However, even though the story received international attention, the Pakistani government responded with skepticism. After the Indian police contacted and checked, they confirmed that Pawan had indeed come to India with a little girl, and they fully believed that Pawan was not a spy. They emphasized that Pawan was just a man who sincerely tried to help the lost girl, and there was no evidence to support the accusations. With a heavy heart, the police chose to speak honestly. He revealed that he could no longer compromise with his conscience and the truth, although the price to be paid was very high. Finally, he decided to state that Pawan was an innocent person even though the risk was great, and he might even lose his job. Pawan will be sent back to India with honor. Kanawha's upload received a positive response from one of the foreign TV stations until this news reached India. Pawan was given the opportunity to express his feelings. He also asked Indian and Pakistani citizens to gather at the border and make peace with each other. Pawan, alias Bajrangi, crossed the border safely. The day arrived when everyone gathered and the Kanawha gave the good news that the Muni was named Sahida and he was already with his parents. Razika and her father were also seen there. The soldiers on guard were ordered to close the border gate tightly. He also only received orders to guard the country. Because the number of people present was thousands, the soldiers signaled to break down the border gate. Pawan, Bajrangi slowly stepped through the barrier. On the other side, Sahida or Muni ran towards Pawan, quickly followed by her father. She wanted to scream but couldn't. Suddenly a miracle happened. Sahida, who previously couldn't speak, was finally able to scream while calling uncle. Sahida and Pawan ran, without being able to hold back their feelings. Tears flowed, reflecting how much they felt for each other. When I watched the end of this story, unconsciously my tears also fell. The ending of this story describes a long journey full of sacrifices of love and hope. Pawan, with his sincerity, through various obstacles in order to fulfill his promise to unite Sahida with his family. Despite facing many challenges, he never gave up and continued to fight even though he had to bear great risks. Sahida, who finally found her family again, proved that love and longing can overcome all differences.